right, it's 6:30. Call the Monday, May 8th, 2023 City Council meeting to order. If we could please start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any additions to the agenda tonight?
No additions, Mayor?
I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. That will take us to public comments. If there's anyone who would like to discuss anything that is not on the agenda, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close public comments and move to the consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that needs to be pulled for further discussion? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
A motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. That will take us to the adoption of resolution approving an application of the Carver County CDA Community Growth Partnership Initiative Program.
Thank you, Mayor. So a little bit of background of where this is coming from. Last year, the EDA had recommended up to City Council that we apply for the Carver County Development Agency, or the Carver County Community Development Agencies, the CDA's Community Growth Partnership Initiative grant, and that was for the pre-development grant where you can get up to $7,500 on a one-to-one match. So $7,500 from the county and $7,500 would come from the applicant. Brad, in this case, for pre-development work, that was approved, and the CDA did award us that grant. So Brad's been using that towards the development of some of his plans for the old fire hall building. The second round that they do, which is a lot larger round, is the development portion of the grant. And this one is up to $100,000 per community per year that then can go towards development projects. To my understanding, I don't think Mayor has ever received this grant before. It is competitive just with the cities in Carver County. Chuck Swanson and I and Brad met last week, I believe it was, and we sat down to make he's the executive director for the CDA, and we sat down just to make sure that Brad's project was an eligible one for the grant program. And at the conclusion of it, Chuck said, yep, it looks like it's an eligible project. Please feel free to throw in an application for consideration. So as part of that process, it comes due on May 26th of this month. Brad and I are working together to submit that grant application. The city has to be the applicant for it, but then we have to have a project partner in mind for that. Excuse me. So working with Brad on that application. So the funds don't go directly to the applicant. The city acts as a fiscal agent and a pass-through agency. So CDA would award Brad's project, but the funds would come to the city, and then we would then award them down to Brad on a reimbursement style basis. The EDA met last week and reviewed this, and they gave unanimous support for the recommendation up to City Council to approve the resolution that would authorize submission of a grant application to this program. And Brad is here in case you had any questions regarding his project. And
no questions, just a couple comments.
Mhm.
It'd be nice how Mayor compete with like.
Brad,
Brad?
could you
Oh, you
come
want? okay.
step up to the,
podium, please? Thank you.
Mic's on.
Yep.
Okay. Just a couple comments. It would be nice if, Mayor could compete with Waconia for nice buildings, something like that, help it along. And the other thing is it could make the project, would make it go faster, depending on what they would, agree to, if anything at all, but it would really help the project speed along. So.
Right.
Otherwise, just working with Nick on filling out the application.
I put your concept art up on the projector there.
I'm sure y'all have seen that already, huh?
I haven't.
Oh,
Really?
okay, I'm sorry.
I mean, yeah, I think it looks cool.
Yeah,
Yes.
They're the fanciest building in town.
Do you already have people interested in spots and like concepts of like what? No?
No, it's closing so far away, but I'm working with Nick on putting a sign up there, maybe with a, a smaller picture of that up there, future space for lease, and then, yeah. I mean, there's some people talking, you hear this, what is it, orthodontist from Hutch wants to move closer, and you hear talk, but nothing in writing yet, no.
But you would be interested if I passed people through to you
Oh,
for
absolutely.
different ideas
Oh,
of
yeah.
the thinking? Okay.
oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And there'll probably be, you can see it's windows, doors, and then they, on the right side, probably get split, 1.5 stalls, a walk-in door, and then you'd get half of that, and then the other stall there. So that would make 2, 3, 4, 5 different, possible 5 different tenants, small. It'd be small. It would be a hallway and back to the bathroom, so a little bigger than this per spot.
Great concept, yeah, I hope we can get some help from the CDA
Yeah.
to move some of this along. It's a great concept.
If you pass this along to anybody, it's zone C2 Central Commercial Downtown District. So if anybody's curious on what's allowed in those buildings, you just go to the city's code. We have it off our website, and you would just go to the zoning code, chapter 150 or 152.
I have the papers too. at home. Yeah.
And you just look up the C2 business district to see what allowable uses there are. There's a lot of uses, just before anybody comes crashing in and
Yeah.
anything like that.
And remind me, when's our tentative closing date?
It was November 30th.
Yeah, or sooner, depending how Kyle.
Pressure, Kyle.
Yeah, no pressure.
No, I'm fine with whatever.
Perfect. Well, thank you.
All right. Must hang around a few minutes. if you don't mind.
Yeah. Nick, do you need a motion for this or?
So yes, we'd be looking for a motion on Resolution 2023-20, the resolution approving an application for the Carver County Community Development Agency Community Growth Partnership Initiative Grant Program.
Look for motion to approve resolution 2023-20 for application to the CDA Partnership Initiation Grant Program.
I'll make that motion.
A motion with a second.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. That will take us to adoption of resolution modifying the terms and conditions of the conduit bond for Presbyterian homes.
So there's quite a bit in here on this one, and let me find. Did I write a memorandum for this one? No, I did not. So this one that we're looking at, there was a request that came in from Presbyterian Homes, and back in 2016, the city authorized use of their borrowing authority through what's called a conduit bond in order to issue debt. So don't quote me on the years, but I believe it was back in the 1980s when the state of Minnesota wanted cities and nonprofits to work closer together with each other. So they implemented a rule that nonprofits need to go through cities in order to issue debt for any projects that they were doing. So nonprofits now pair with cities to use their borrowing authority to issue debt. So we did so for $10 million back in 2016. And just for anybody listening, public-wise, a conduit debt just borrows the city's lending authority. The city is not on the hook for any payments or anything ever. The city is completely scot-free, even if the nonprofit defaults on the whole thing and raises a whole lot of legal issues. The city's off the hook. We're not a part of it. So the action we're looking for today and all the documents they set forward is what they're looking at doing is they need to amend the conduit note in order to change how the interest rate is calculated. So they were utilizing a formulation before, and they want to switch to a different formulation that they've agreed to with their bank that the conduit note is for. But in order to do that, they need to change the conduit note, which is why they're coming to us asking for approval to make that modification. None of the other terms and conditions change. It's the same borrowing amount. It's like a refinance, except they don't have to pay off one note and start another. It's really just a methodology of calculating interest rate that's being changed.
Any questions for Nick on this?
So does it affect that limit that we are allowed to borrow every year?
Nope. So that limit of $10 million, what that is $10 million is the most a city can borrow in any one go of our own debt and plus any conduit debt that we do for bank qualified notes. And bank qualified is kind of shorthand for you get a little bit better of an interest rate because it's tax exempt. So you get some better interest rate as part of that. That was 2016's note. This does not affect our borrowing for this year.
Okay, we, just because it came through us, we have to authorize a
Yes.
change.
Yep. And it's just the interest rate side, not the $10 million side.
Do we charge a fee for this? Or do we not have that on our fee schedule? Do you have
Mike-
a lot of work to do?
Mike had discussed this with me earlier today, that there was a fee involved for conduit bond issuance, but my understanding of that and past practice that I've had is that's for when you issue a note, because you have to get the city's financial advisors involved. You have to get our bond attorneys involved to make sure we review all the documents to make sure it's okay. Since this is just a small modification on the interest portion of it and not a full issuance, I don't see the need to charge them because they did all the work bringing this to us. And actually, the law firm that they used, Taft Law, is the same firm that we use for our bond issuances.
And we did collect a fee in 2016. So we're going to look at the policy and see if we maybe need to make it a little more robust to include some of these things as they come along.
Yeah,
But at this point, no, there's no city monies that went into this.
okay, perfect.
All right, Nick, is that the right resolution number 2020? Or should it be 2023?
2023-21.
Let me get to that. Do I have the wrong year on there?
Yeah.
So it's 2023.
Yeah, that should be 2023.
I'll look for motion to approve resolution 2023-21, once we make that correction for the amendment to the city's senior housing revenue refund note.
Motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
I don't really want to relive 2020, so changing that would be awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Brad.
See you, Brad.
We'll move to number 10, consider action on utilization of street improvement funds.
So as was talked about, I think it was the last council meeting, it was brought up in the more of the report section, is we had some very favorable bidding when it came to the seal coat and mill and overlay projects that were just bid out. When we were doing the quotes from the engineering firm, the cost of asphalt was much higher based upon bid prices they were seeing at the time. And that's how they put their quotes together. They see what's been let recently and use those similar figures because those are quantities you can go by. But over time, that price had dropped. And when it came time between the original estimate and then when the bonds came in, we saw some pretty favorable results. Our original estimate for the seal coating and overlay project was 1.1 million, and the actual cost came in at $907,710. And this includes the section of 7th Street that just got worked on. They've got the first lift on that, but includes that as well. And the funds available for the project were $1,164,687, which leaves a difference of $256,977. The public brought this to the Public Works Committee to see what we wanted to do, if anything, with that available funding. So we looked at a number of options. It ranged from look at the asphalt sidewalk replacement, the 62nd Street infrastructure work for that island we have out there, because we had talked about that project, expanding the areas for seal coating and overlay, to not spending it at all and just put it away for a future project or what have you. And they looked at all those options, and what they decided would be the best course of action would be to expand the current area. So this is the non-orange sections are the 2023 overlay and seal coat areas in Hidden Creek. And for $219,000, you could add in the remaining areas of Hidden Creek. And after a lot of discussion, they felt that just rounds out the area. It finishes Hidden Creek. So you don't have to come back in a future year and do these areas. Anybody, any other three members from the Public Works Committee like to add anything in on that?
Well, I think you covered it. Like I said, we looked at all options and one of them was looking at the sidewalks. But as council hasn't made a decision yet, are we gonna switch over to doing concrete versus bituminous? We're just not there yet. So we figured this would be the best way to allocate the surplus.
And when are these roads slated to be?
We had the bid. They're gonna start anytime in
The
June.
orange, sorry. Like
It-
if we didn't do the orange this year, are they next year's project? Are they 2 years project?
Yeah, they would be in the next few years.
Combination of both.
Yep, so, they all need to be done. They're all in condition that a bill and overlay makes sense at this time. We could put it off a little bit if we wanted to, but, we're not rushing it by doing it now,
Okay.
so.
That was my.
Yep.
Right, like they're not in 5 years and we're just
No,
doing them
no.
to.
And then on Hidden Creek there, that piece where we had left off there, that did take a little bit more abuse this last winter and it's starting to show a little more wear and tear. So we thought it was certainly appropriate to add that into it.
Well, then I like that it's all been done in the same year,
Right.
Then we're done. Yeah.
except for the new part. Those are new roads.
The
Then,
new part will get a seal coat.
right,
so.
but then we're kind of like starting fresh all in that same so that we don't have to think about these roads for another 20 years, besides the the crack and seal coating.
Makes sense. They're here.
And it seems very reasonable to add that much for the price we're getting it for.
Yeah, we thought so too. And such favorable bids that now's the time to do that. Any other questions on that? I'll look for a motion to include Hidden Creek Boulevard and Cardinal Circle, Meadow Parkway and Apple Circle, Hidden Trail and Sunrise Circle to the 2023 street project that's already been awarded.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
And the little bit of extra from the 256, the 219 will just get put in.
That'll sit in the street improvement fund.
Okay.
All right, with that, we'll move to the consider approval for proposals for the internal administrative investigation. So with this, we have, as we talked back in February, March, we had talked about doing some internal investigation on what would be needed for policies, see what we had in place, make sure there was no wrongdoing internally, and we felt it would be a third party coming in to do that versus we just don't have the bandwidth to do it internally. So we did get a few quotes. We had 9,600 from Abdo and Eck, 2,500 for our internal attorney. And then our attorney recommended a third party, Red Cedar Consulting, for $2,500. So with that, we are looking to bring them in, do an internal. This is outside of the criminal investigation that sheriff's department doing, just to make sure internally, did we follow procedures? Did we have the right stuff in place? And those sorts of things. So any questions on this at all?
So it's just basically to shore up our policies.
Yeah, some of it, we have some sort of an obligation for our residents to show that internally there was no
Absolutely.
wrongdoing.
Absolutely.
And this will cover that aspect of it. We can't, as personnel committee, we can't come in there and do an investigation and know, is there anything that was done wrong or not? So we're bringing someone in to do that from that aspect. So
And
just
then whatever comes
strictly
from that will
internal.
make,
And then
decisions
some, yep,
based.
yep.
Makes sense.
Yep. Any other, Tim Sullivan had mentioned they can certainly do it. They have some of the background. The initial thoughts I'm getting from him is he would rather stay out of it, and he's recommending Red Cedar Consulting as the company to do that, just so he can kind of stay out of it, and we'll bring in a third party. We'll have to get that third party a little up to speed. We'll have to get them up with with Jimmy's investigation from an IT standpoint and some of the internal stuff, but it shouldn't take long. He's at $165 an hour, and we don't think it's going to take much more than 20 hours to do the investigation and be able to come up with a finding. And a somewhat report.
I thought based on the cost as well, right, to keep it a true third party, my gut was leaning me towards Red Cedar
Yeah.
Consulting
Yeah.
as well, just so there's,
That's certainly
And-
my thoughts also.
right, like, I assume they do this more often than Tim. Tim's probably not doing these
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
investigations and
Any other questions on this? So with that, I'll look for a motion to approve Red Cedar Consulting to perform the internal investigation on the fraud phishing scheme.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
second.
We have a motion, and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. So with that, that'll take us to council reports. Councilmember Wagner, anything to report on?
I had EDA last week and Brad was here. And we talked about that. That's all we talked
Perfect.
about.
Councilmember Halt?
Same as Peggy.
Councilmember McNeely?
We had a personnel meeting last week, I think it was, and we just started having conversations about the sheriff's department moving to the 12-hour shifts and be more regionalized. So that's just trying to get ahead of kind of having conversations with them. And then we also discussed the internal administrative audit and who to use and what we were going to bring to council.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you for bringing up the sheriff's contract. There will be some changes, we think, going into 2024 on how they're restructuring. There's more to come. Nick's been working pretty diligently with them just to find out how it's going to look and what will be best for us. They are changing things. They're kind of moving away from the town cop model, it sounds like, in a regionalization between us, New Germany and Watertown. So more to come, but we don't think we're going to lose any service, but I think there's an opportunity for some cost savings for the community. So
Good.
More with that. So with that, then I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Sometimes I forget to say aye, but.
Sufficient. That was.